Okay, today is Tuesday, October 4th. It is 10 a.m. and this is Tuesday Talks, a weekly conversation with church communicators to find out what's coming up, share some ideas, ask questions, help each other out, maybe share some stories. So let's go ahead and get started. My name is Christina Dillabo. I'm the Director of Communications for the Desert Southwest Conference. This morning, we're going to start out with the bishop transitions and what to communicate. So if this is your first time hearing that there is going to be a transition, surprise! Yep, we're getting a new bishop in November 6th. No, actually, November 2nd through the 5th is the Western Jurisdiction Conference, and that's the time when new bishops are going to get elected. How many bishops? I don't know for sure. No, I don't think anybody knows for sure at this point. But 3, okay, because there were some conversations that I've heard that potentially could be different than that. So we're anticipating 3 bishops, and officially the Western Jurisdiction, I don't think is communicating the exact number because of the potential for changes. And a little bit of that, not that you need to communicate anything about this, but I guess every jurisdiction was able to select how many bishops to elect. Not how many, they get an allotment, right? And some jurisdictions chose to elect less than the number of bishops than they were allotted. And so that's maybe some of where that question mark comes in. Anyway, but in our situation, we're definitely not having the same bishop again because Bishop Hagiya is retiring. So we will get a new bishop. I don't know if it's going to be a brand new person that's becoming a bishop, or if it will be a bishop that already has experience in the Episcopal office. We'll all find out. And there could be people at your church that are wondering some of these things as well, that would love to watch and see how it all develops. So one of the first things, I'm going to share my screen and get to the site that we need to go to. First things to share with you, where is my Google Chrome? There it is, let's see here. Here we go. So we've got this article that was published last week about the bishop transition. Here, there's the link to the Western Jurisdiction Conference. Let me go ahead and click on that one. On this page, you'll get all the information you need. We're going to have the live stream linked right here on this page, but also there is an agenda that's already published. The live stream will also be linked here on this page. And I don't know if you're friends with someone that's a delegate, because nobody else gets to vote except for the delegates, they'll have a link on this page as well, in addition to the homepage, to get straight to the voting platform. So any delegates that are watching, that's where it'll be, but I'm sure you'll get the link some other way as well. So some things to note are registration for this event is nearing its end. I think the deadline is October 15th. I have the specifics about that. And let's see, maybe it says it in here. And I will include that in the follow-up. There it is. October 15th is the registration deadline. And so delegates would need to register. There is room for observers, but we're not really, we meaning the Western Jurisdiction communicators, are not really making a big deal about, hey, come and join us, and because the room for observers is in a separate space. It's in the sanctuary. So observers are actually just going to be watching a live stream of the event. There's not room for them in the same room that the delegates and the Episcopal candidates are going to be in. So for that reason, it just kind of doesn't really make sense to travel to, where's it going to be at? It's going to be in Utah, in Salt Lake City. It really doesn't make sense to travel to Salt Lake City to be a part of this event, because you're just going to be watching the live stream anyway, so you might as well stay home and watch the live stream there. What else? Yeah, go ahead.
They're not going to do a Zoom meeting with this?
It is going to be live streamed. I don't think I don't remember. I think that all the delegates are going to be there live.
No.
Yeah.
But I wonder for the rest of us, if we wanted to be observers, we could go that way.
So no, we'll have it live streamed on this page. So for everybody else to watch it, you can just go to this page and you'll watch it that way. So keep that in mind as a communicator. Send people to this link. I'll share with you the short URL to it because that'll probably be better. WJ conference URL short. What else? Oh yeah, and there's going to be news that's going to be published from the Western jurisdiction, especially during the conference. You might want to share that. And so to register, or not register, but to subscribe, let's see here. I thought I had it right on that page, but apparently I don't. I'll send you the link for subscribing. But here's the subscription if you want to get the latest and greatest, because the Western jurisdiction is going to be publishing things like daily recaps, which are not going to probably won't get published through Desert Southwest Conference News. We'll end up publishing at the end of everything of this event. Here's what happened. Here's who the people that were elected are. Here's who Desert Southwest Conference gets. Things like that. We're not going to be necessarily sharing a daily recap, but the Western jurisdiction will. So if people want to get that, they should subscribe to the Western jurisdiction newsletter. And I will include the URL for that. So back to transitions. So Bishop Hagiya is going to be leaving, and then we'll get a new bishop. It's not ready yet, but hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have, if you go to the homepage, you'll see this About Our Bishop page is going to be updated with, it's going to say transition or Episcopal transition at the top. It's going to have information, this Bishop 101 document that talks about why we elect bishops, how it all happens. Julie can share a little bit more about that one, but there's going to be a lot of great content in there that you as a communicator might want to share, whether it's in your newsletter or email, whatever. You could pick and choose pieces of it, and it will be linked on this page. The other thing that's going to be linked in this section, you'll see on the right-hand side, there will be the 101 document. On the left-hand side, we're going to have information about Bishop Hagiya's legacy gift, I guess. You'll remember with Bishop Bob, we had a scholarship that people could donate towards, that was going to be his legacy. Well, Bishop Grant is starting a Innovation Leadership Institute, and there'll be information. You're going to get a letter that'll be published soon that talks about that Leadership Institute and what it's all about, how people can donate towards that if they want to support that as a gift to Bishop Grant and his legacy. And we'll have a button here as well that has information about that and subscribing to news for that. What else? Am I missing something, Julie?
Oh, I think that's great. You brought attention to the Bishop 101 document. A lot of people don't know the process. It's kind of the same in terms of how your local church pastor sometimes is itinerant, which means they aren't always at your church for the duration of their career. Bishops serve 4-year terms, and so then every 4 years they are assigned to an Episcopal area, which can include one annual conference or more than one annual conference. And so, COVID kind of messed things up. And so we're sort of in this weird 6-year term right now, but we are looking forward to electing the Episcopal people, the bishops, to 3 of them at least, to these Episcopal areas. It's most likely that the Desert Southwest Conference will get a brand new baby bishop, and so they will be lots of onboarding, lots of training, lots of new information, and so it's exciting to see that. I would encourage you on the Western Jurisdiction website to go to the Episcopal candidates section. Currently, there are 32 candidates. The delegation for the Desert Southwest Conference has been actually backing up. The Western Jurisdiction has been doing short interviews with each of them, and those videos are on there online. So if you click on somebody's profile, such as Dottie's, she's a clergy person here in the Desert Southwest Conference, you can see, let's see, I think on the left is a video that each candidate submitted, and then on the right is a compilation of the shorter candidate forum interviews. But then us as the delegation, we are interviewing certain folks that we would like to have more interest and find out more about. So that's kind of hard work, but exciting work. And Anthony is also a clergy person from our conference who's discerning a call to the role of the bishop. So lots of prayers for all of them, because it's a very anxious time, but also a prayerful time for them.
There we go. Now I can unmute. Thanks, Julie. Are there questions about that? Okay, the only other thing, I encourage you to check out the site, the Western Jurisdiction website, some of the things that you might find on there. There's a really neat video. It's an interview that Bishop Karen did with all of the executive assistants to the bishop about the episcopacy, the episcopal office. And there's some really fascinating insights. It's a short video, but with a lot of really good content. So I'll include that in case you're curious about what it means to be a bishop and that whole, I don't know what, it's a little sneak peek into behind the scenes of a bishop. Really makes you aware of how much they do and the areas that they're involved in. And it's not just the work that they do in our own conference. So, all right. Thank you, Julie. The next item that I want to cover is, let's see. So we already talked about Western Jurisdiction registration and other news. Youth 2023. In case you hadn't seen that one, let me go back to my Google Chrome. Move these out of the way. There we go. So we published this article earlier in September. And so you may have already heard about Youth 2023. The big deal that I want to call your attention to is this particular article shows you that there is a Desert Southwest Conference planning team, I guess, that is trying to make it affordable and fun for Desert Southwest Conference group to travel together and experience it together. So there are some deadlines to keep in mind, but there's specifics for registering as a part of the Desert Southwest Conference group and who to contact if you have questions. So I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, had seen this article. I will link it in my follow-up notes. Any questions about that? Okay, then I'll move on to the November 6th day of prayer. Okay, this one also, let me share my screen again, is something that we shared in the newsletter, which I don't know if you all noticed that we're now publishing a weekly digest instead of a once a month newsletter. I hope that is helpful. I have received some emails thanking me for it, even though it was a mission on communication decision to, hey, we need to do this on a weekly basis. Anyway, the Mission Together Ukraine, that's on November 6th, the Desert Southwest Conference is going to have a day of prayer. And you can read about the meeting there. There's a link to where you can give if you want to include giving as, a special offering as part of your day of prayer. There will be a whole schedule, I guess, or I don't know, like an order of worship. Maybe that's what it is. That's going to be available soon about this day of prayer. And there's a meeting that's taking place, I believe it's sometime this week, between, it's clergy in the Ukraine. It could be one of their district superintendents, but I believe it's clergy in the Ukraine. Our local clergy connection, Reverend Mal Munchinsky, and our director of justice and outreach, Billie Fidlin, will be meeting via Zoom and recording that meeting. That recording is going to be getting to know a little bit more about the clergy in Ukraine, what they're going through. And I think the intention is that we're going to offer either edited clips of that recording, or depending on how it turns out, maybe just the whole recording. But we're hoping that this will be a great resource for your church to share a little bit more about what exactly is going on over there and give some guidance on what to pray for. I'm not one of the planning committee people for this, so I don't know all the details, but I know that there are resources coming. So as you plan for that, keep that in mind, share that information with your worship leader, with your pastor, because this could be special service, or it could be a separate thing that happens. Maybe why not share it with your missions or church and society chair? Because maybe they could plan some special thing. Questions about that? Okay. Then, and our local contact, if you do have questions, would be Billie Fidlin. She could tell you a little bit more about maybe the sketch of what they're working on. It might be all finalized. I just haven't seen it myself. All right. So next item is annual conference AV team. I did have a question about that via email, just someone that was interested in learning more about what does this mean. I'm passionate about audiovisual. I'd love to get involved. So I'm going to give you a little history first. So years ago, before I became director of communications, we used to have, I think it was a team of all clergy, and it was retired clergy that were running the audiovisual components for annual conference. I have no idea who owned the equipment. Did we rent it? I don't know. I know some of it was owned by our clergy, but I don't think, I don't know. So let's see here. What we're doing is not exactly switching from hiring an AV team. We're exploring the idea of what resources do we have available within the Desert Southwest Conference. That's people, equipment, talents. Is there any interest in starting up an AV team again that would potentially volunteer or maybe get an honorarium? I don't know. To help with annual conference audiovisual stuff. That would mean the equipment, going through the slides, running the cameras, any of those things that have to, the speakers, the microphones, all of those things that are audio visual for annual conference. So if you have someone at your church, or if you yourself, you're watching and you're thinking, oh, I'd love to be involved in that, please email communications@dscumc.org. Right now, all we're trying to do is gauge, is there any interest out there? Of the people interested, are there people that already have experience in this area? And then from that, we'll move on to a deeper discussion of, okay, so what can we do? Maybe there's enough people that we could do AV without hiring a company. Maybe we just rent equipment. Who knows? I don't know. So that's where we're at. It's a lot of unknowns, but we're just venturing into this, trying to figure out what we have available. And this is a request from the Sessions Committee, which is the team that plans the annual conference. So we'll see what comes out of it. But if you hadn't heard about it, now you know. And I do have an article that was published about it. So I'll share that with you in case you want to share that in your communication channels. Do you have any questions about that? Okay. The final item, it's not on my list, but I know, we started out just before we went live, we were talking about the crazy storms that we had yesterday in different areas, some hurricane-like. And so I wondered, you may have some questions at your church about what are we doing to help the people in Florida? Is there something that our church can do? Is there something that I can do in case you haven't watched the news about the hurricane that happened. I will share with you our contact for disaster response, but I think it was last week that I was emailing with Tom Maddock, who was the person that was the main contact. Now it's Reverend George Cushman. But Tom had explained to me before that, when we do relief buckets, the hygiene buckets, the cleaning out the muck buckets and all that stuff, those are they used to be stored at different major depot locations. And now each conference is asked to hang on to them themselves, or at least in our area, we're supposed to hang on to them. And Tom Maddock just last week assured me that we are very full of any of these relief buckets. We don't need any new ones at this time. So if your church wants to do something, they could either help fund our local ERT, emergency response teams, recovery teams. They could either fund their efforts because they travel all over to be a part of that assistance. It helps pay for tools that they need for travel, for all sorts of stuff. Or they can give towards UMCOR. I'll check and see if there's already a specific disaster relief fund for that. And FYI, if this is your first time hearing about UMCOR and the United Methodist Disaster Relief, or if you have people in your organization, now's a good time to remind people what makes United Methodist Disaster Relief giving unique to just about any other organization out there is that our giving goes directly to those relief efforts. The administration costs to pay for a website, to pay for stationery, any of that stuff, that's all covered by our regular giving from our apportionments. So when an individual gives specifically for disaster relief in Florida, it is going to specifically to that area to fund those efforts, any of the equipment that they need, any stuff that they would use or need to pay for to offer relief. So that's very unique. A lot of times when people give to other organizations, it's a percentage that's going to the relief in that area, and the rest goes to administrative costs and whatever. So keep that in mind. I do see there's an item in chat. Did we have dates for annual conference for next year? Oh, great question. We do have those dates. Let me go in and see if I have that. There is an article actually where I published information that was decided on the last sessions committee. Something to keep in mind, though, is although the decision came about, I didn't add it to my calendar.
Christina, I have it. It's June 15th through the 18th of 2023.
Thank you. So something to keep in mind is that as things expand, actually, so you said June 15th through the 18th. The 18th is actually part of what we decided was not going to be part of the dates. This early on, planning is happening. We're setting the stage for stuff, but just like with exploring the AV team options, The dates right now are set to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's a 3-day annual conference. We are planning at this point on having it be in person and including a Zoom option for people to be able to watch that way or participate that way. But if you recall last year when we were planning annual conference, because of the survey results, we were, which asked how comfortable would you be going to an in-person event and all that. The survey results indicated the majority would prefer online. But as we got closer to annual conference, COVID slowed down quite a bit, and people were much more comfortable with meeting online. So we shifted to a hybrid. So we ended up having online and in person. So keep that in mind. And I think at that point we shifted to just going 2 days, or maybe it already was 2 days. I don't remember, but so this could change. Just know that right now we're planning on 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're planning for in-person and making sure that we have an online option, but that could change. Right. Any other questions about that? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Julie, for sharing all that you did. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, and keep those questions coming via email to communications@dscumc.org.